An important thing about having knowing what your inventory is because obviously if I go in and I want to buy something and you don't have it, am I more apt to buy it right now from you and place it on order, or go see if your competitor has it? What do you think as a customer I would do? See if my competitor has it, because if I want things, I want them now. I don't want to have to wait. Okay? So I've done that quite a few times. And in doing some of the things that I do in my free time, there were times, I know one time I went to Home Depot, and they didn't have 1x2s. They were out. Even though it said they had some, the guy couldn't find any. I put everything that I had in my cart, just said, here you go, and went to Menards. Because I knew that they would have them. All right? So that happens a lot of times where if you don't have something, okay, you need to make sure that you have an accurate count. So that way you can tell people, hey, I have this many in stock. All right? Or if you're working in the fast food industry and having inventory, it's important to make sure you have enough, for instance, taco shells.
We ran on those one night. Not a very fun night.
I'm sure it wasn't. Okay? I know in my years that when I was in high school and in college, I worked at McDonald's and did that. I was the guy who ordered stuff. Running out of things is not very good. Okay? When you run out of things at McDonald's or Taco Bell in that case, like you said, Tristan, running out of taco shells one night wasn't fun. You get a lot of angry people then. Yeah. Okay? And that does happen. I know when I worked at McDonald's, there's a couple times when, and my job as the maintenance guy, that was my thing, was I had to order for the 2 weeks before the truck came. And there were times when it was really close. Or we'd have to go borrow from one of the other stores. And if that was the case, and in your case, there isn't another Taco Bell in town. But at least at a McDonald's where there's 3 of them, if one of the stores runs out, then they could maybe borrow from one of the other stores, which we had to do a couple times. And they, of course, borrowed from us and so on. All right, but it's not the best thing in the world to do. So having an accurate count is pretty important. In some of the other jobs I've had, like I've mentioned, at Sears, they actually bring in a company that's not related to or associated to. Sears pays them to come in and do inventory one time a year and get the counts accurate. Now, me being in the tire department when I was there, our inventory was pretty close, but there's a lot of times it was off. And if it's off, all of a sudden I have 3 tires as compared to 4, chances are that person's going to walk out the door and go somewhere else. Okay, that's not a good thing to do. All right. So anyway, it says the inventory shows the number of each item that your business has in stock. An inventory card may be kept on either a computer or on a card to keep a record of the items on hand. The number of incoming items, called receipts, is added to the previous inventory. The number of outgoing items, called issues, is subtracted from the previous inventory. It is frequently done on a computer using UPC labeling. And you guys have seen those. Most of ours, like when I said that when I was at Sears, it was all on computer. Like if you came in and said, I need this size tire, I'd type in that tire, and then this is what I would have. It would also list all the different things I could get. If you had a specific tire in mind, I could order it for you. However, I could show you what I had on hand for that size. Okay? Now, obviously, then that company that would come in, they come in one time a year, and they would go around basically and physically. If they didn't see it, it didn't get added. And they would have a little clicker thing on their belt, and they would just sit there and tap 1, 2, 3, 4 if they saw 4 of them. And that's all they would do. And it would go to the computer. Then after a couple days, it would sync up, and then all of our stuff would be redone. Okay? So I know when I was at McDonald's and doing the inventory and making sure I had all the different pieces and whatnot, there wasn't a computer for that. I had to write it down on a sheet, and then when I called it in, the order. We could fax it, but a lot of times we just called it in and said, I need 45 cases of fries. I need this many cases of pop. I need 1 thing of Coke. I need, that's what I had to do for that part. And that was me doing an inventory. So the formula that they give you for that says your inventory is going to be equal to your previous inventory plus any receipts minus any issues. Now, issues is not the kind of issues maybe you're thinking. Issues meaning that I gave it out to you. Okay? So, receipts are taken in. Issues would be giving out. So, for instance, if Dennis owns his business, okay, the Charchenko's box company, okay, and Josh works for him, and Josh goes and asks him, hey, I need a piece of plywood for this. And Dennis had it on the inventory that he had like 5 sheets of plywood readily available. He gave him a sheet of plywood for him to work. That's a issue because you gave it out. Okay? If Dennis goes to Menards then and buys 5 more sheets, that would be a receipt or a taking in process. Okay? So that would be an adding. So, on number 1, it says 4 drawer files. The previous inventory is 82. The receipts are 15. And the issues are 65. So what I do to figure out what my new inventory is I take the 82 plus the 15 and I subtract out the 65. What's left over? You have 32 in inventory right now. Okay? Number 2, 5 ream case of paper. You guys know what a ream is for paper? If you don't, if you look over on the cabinet over by the printer, that's a ream. Okay? Previous inventory was 220. Receipts of 70. You issued out 180. So you add the 70 and subtract the 180. And how much do you have left over? 110. What do you think? Good. Then if you turn the page, the way they have it is more in chart format or like a card format. It says the card shows the status of 4 by 8 sheets of wallboard. Okay? Wallboard is just another name for sheetrock. Okay? Sheetrock is actually a brand. Did you know that? It's like Bobcat. We were talking about that the other day. That's not really a Bobcat. It's a skid steer loader. Okay? Or Kleenex is facial tissue. Sheetrock is a brand name. Okay? It's not always sheetrock, but wallboard is the official name for it. Okay? So on that particular one, for number 3, it says in January you had an opening balance of 300. You took in 120 of them, and you issued out 150 of them. How much do you have on hand? 270. Number 4. In February, now you start with 270. Where do you think they got that number from, you guys? Yeah, from the previous one, right? From the previous one? Okay, good. You took in 80, and you subtracted out 140. What do you have now? 210? So where does that number go? That goes for number 5 in March, right? For March's A. So 210, you took in 120. You minused out 100. How much do you have left? And then that number goes again in the next part. 230. You didn't increase any, and you subtracted out 80. So what's your final number? 150. Now, just to put this in perspective to you, this was number 3A, this was number 4A, This was number 5. This was A here. And this was B here. This was 6A. This is 6B. Now, in case you're wondering, the rest of the assignment is set up like this, in this type of chart format. If you're one of those types of people, and I'm not saying anybody in here is yet, because in the past, what I've had is I've had some of you get to the point where it's like, oh, it's the end of the year, I really don't want to do anything. I'm just going to copy down the odds and not do the evens or write down any number I want. And if that's the case, you're not even going to be close. Okay? It's adding and subtracting. It's really not that bad. That's all it is today. If you haven't noticed, I haven't multiplied anything. Okay? So keep that in mind, that a lot of times it's going to be based on the previous answer. Okay? So you're going to need to know how to do each of those pieces. So we're going to start on page 585. It goes all the way to 588. It takes up a lot of room, even though it's only 16 problems. It's just because it has a lot of charts, and those charts take up space. Now, we've already done 1 through 6, so hopefully that shouldn't take too bad. Okay?